The Detroit Pistons are now officially halfway through their NBA season, so we are going to go ahead and hand out some mid-season grades for all the players and head coach JB Bickerstaff in a season that finds the Pistons at the top of the Eastern Conference. Today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Khahil. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the last 4 years for the Locked On Network, been a credential media member over the last 3 years, and I appreciate all of you guys who make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I also want to thank you guys for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network in America. We appreciate all of your guys' support, truly. Later on, we will go through, like we mentioned, all the player grades for midway through the year. The Pistons have officially played 41 games. They are 31-10. Later, we'll go through some of the bench guys. We'll go through Isaiah Stewart's midseason grade, Jaden Ivey, all those players. But we're going to start at the very top. Obviously, I think you have to, with the overall team, the head coach, and the franchise player. So I think the overall team grade has to be A triple plus. I don't know how this season could have went any better. I don't know how it could possibly be any better. The Pistons have lost maybe 2-3 games that fans may feel like, oh, they shouldn't have lost that game. If you feel like that's the difference between an A and an A+, I don't know what to tell you. This team at 31-10 has surpassed every bit of expectation that quite literally anybody on this planet had. You won't convince me that there is someone who thought the Pistons would be 31-10 through 41 games, top of the Eastern Conference, in like a 5-game lead, 5.5 game lead on the second place team in the East. There is a gap between the Pistons and the next team. It hasn't been close. There is a gap between Detroit and team number 2. This team has been fantastic. You look at the overall season statistics. They are the second best defense in the NBA. And if you can go and look, this is interesting to me. OKC is number 1 to defensive rating. They're 105.2 defensive rating. Just amazing. Insane. Just fantastic defense. Second are the Detroit Pistons at 108.5. The next closest team to the Pistons is San Antonio, who has a 111.6 defensive rating. The difference between OKC and Detroit is 3.5 points. The difference between San Antonio and Detroit is 3.1 points. The difference between the number 3 team, you have to go down just to find someone that has the gap between the Spurs and the Pistons, which is 3.1 points. That's the same difference between the 3rd best defense in the NBA and the 18th best defense in the NBA. OKC is way ahead of everybody, but the Pistons are closer to OKC than the rest of the league is to the Detroit Pistons, damn near, on defense. There's 2 clear top dogs when it comes to the defensive end of the floor. And the Pistons aren't just, again, it's like OKC's in their own tier, a little gap, Detroit, then a gap, the rest of the NBA. So sure, they may not be as good as OKC right now, which, I don't know, over the last 10 games, they have a 103.6 defensive rating. That would be better than OKC. It feels like their defense is continually getting better. So, one of the best defenses you can maybe argue by the end of the year, they might get close to how well they're playing. They might end the year playing the best defense in the NBA. But you have that. They're first in block percentage. They're second in steal percentage. They're second in offensive rebound percentage. They are playing absolutely lights out on the defensive end of the floor. I don't know how you don't give this team an A+. The offense, we'll eventually talk about that. But even with the offense only being 11th in the NBA, and it's struggling the last 10 games. The last 5 games is 28th in the NBA offensive rating. Last 10 games, they're 26th offensive rating. Even with that, that doesn't change anything. The Pistons are still getting an A triple plus from me. Then you go to the JB Bickerstaff, the head coach. He gets an A. I think he has pressed a lot of the right buttons. He has went with something we'll talk about later, a very deep team, and has trusted the depth that this team has. Even when people like myself haven't been fans of it, it's turned out to work in a lot of situations. For example, the other night, he placed Chaz Lanier randomly in the fourth quarter. Turns out that was the right button he pushed. Chaz plays amazing in the fourth quarter, helps the Pistons win. JB has gotten the most out of this team defensively. He's helped Jalen Duren develop on the defensive end of the floor. I think he gets a lot of credit for that. And right now, he is the odds-on favorite to win Coach of the Year. I don't know how you don't give him an A for this season through the first half of the year. So JB Bickerstaff, you get an A. Cade Cunningham, he gets an A+ from me. This has been the last 3 games when he's been hurt. That doesn't change. 3 games isn't changing anything for me. He is third right now, according to FanDuel, in MVP odds. He's only behind Luka Doncic and SGA. I think he should be ahead of Luka. Cade has been fantastic. We just watched him play a game where he had 14 assists and 0 turnovers. He's been taking much better care of the basketball. I've talked about that a lot on the podcast. He's no longer turning the ball over nearly as much in scoring situations. He's having the most efficient season of his career. He's having the best defensive season of his career. He's improved in just about every area of the game. Now, he's taking a little bit of a step back in his catch and shoot three-point shooting, but I think a lot of us believe that's something that's going to eventually work itself back to the mean. I've said this number before. Last year, scoring turnover percentage, which is you're turning the ball over when you're in scoring positions. Like when he's trying to score, he's just losing the ball, getting it stripped from him, etc. He was in the 15th percentile, really bad. This year, he's up to the 53rd percentile, 6.2%. 6.2 scoring turnover percentage. Last year was 8.4. So he's improved in that. He's a much better off-the-dribble three-point shooter. He's in much better command of the offense within the half court. And again, you can't just ignore what he's done on the defensive end of the floor. We saw it against Boston, and we're starting to see people across the NBA that are not just Pistons fans start to pick up on the fact that Cade isn't just this high-usage offensive player. He's this player that can play both ways, that does play both ways. He can lead your offense, be the focal point of your offense, and he can also be a guy that's contributing on the defensive end, be one of the best weak-side rim-protecting guards in the NBA. He's been fantastic. I think he's going to be All-NBA first team. He just was named an All-Star Weekend starter. A+ for Cade. 2 more players we'll do here, and then we'll move on to some of the other guys. Jalen Duren, I give Jalen Duren an A as well. I think JD has been incredible. He's probably going to be an all-star this year, and he deserves it. We've talked about his improvement as a dribble drive scorer. His touch around the rim is better than it's ever been. His footwork around the rim has been better than it's ever been. Defensively, he's more engaged play to play than he has ever been at any point of his career. He maybe will never be this elite defender, but he is no longer, so far this year, he has not been this liability on the defensive end. He has not been this guy who's just not trying at times on the defensive end, who has this multiple mental lapses throughout a game. He's a much better rim protector. The way he goes vertical at the rim consistently, honestly, I really love seeing it. Jaylen Brown had a few crazy finishes on him in the paint, even though I thought JD had an incredible contest at the rim, did exactly what you wanted him to do. And then, like I said, offensively, he's emerged as this team real, second scorer for this team. He's become this secondary scorer for the team where they go to him in the half court and have him just create his own offense. That's really who they go to. So Jalen Duren, I think he's going to be an all-star this year. I'm going to give him an A. I think he's been fantastic. And then the last player we're going to go with is Ausar Thompson. I'm going to give Ausar a B. It's been a little bit of a tale of 2 halves for Ausar Thompson, at least offensively. Defensively right now, he's actually ahead of who we'll talk about in just a minute. He's ahead of Isaiah Stewart in Defensive Player of the Year odds, according to FanDuel. I don't know if that's fair. I think Stu should be a bit higher. I think Ausar is going to be an All-NBA first team guy. Or not All-NBA first team. I'm sorry. Hold on. Pause. All defensive first team. That's what I meant to say. I think he's going to be an All-NBA defensive first team guy. He's been absurd defensively, just like he was last year. that side of the floor, he has been absolutely amazing. Just tremendous. And that's always, I feel like, going to carry him to at least, like, anytime you do a season review or a season grading, he's always going to be at least like a B- because of how great his defense is. So with that said, offensively, it's been a tale of two halves. The first 15 games of the year, it was the best offensive basketball he had been playing throughout his entire career. He was hyper-aggressive. He was getting to the free throw line a ton. They were trusting him with the ball in his hands, and he was averaging around 14 points a game. That was a career high for him, and he was doing exactly what the team wanted from him. Be a two-way guy, be a driver, be a slasher, be as good as you are defensively, but then also offensively, we want you to grow as a scorer. Be this guy that attacks in transition, this guy that drives in the half court, draws free throws. And we talked about it. But then over the last month and a half, it's dropped off, especially over the last 10 games. He just hasn't been scoring nearly as much. He's not nearly taking as many shots. He's not being nearly as aggressive. And he hasn't been as good offensively lately. So because of that, I have him at a B. If he continued how he played at the beginning of the year throughout, I think he'd be at an A, and he would be doing exactly what I expected of him. But he has tailed off offensively. He's no longer being asked to do much offensively with the ball in his hands. He's not trying to do too much with the ball in his hands offensively lately. So I hope that starts to change. If it does, I think you see his grade getting even higher. But because of the expectations I had for him on the offensive end of the floor, what I thought he could get to and what he could do for this team, he's underperformed a little bit on that end. So I think he's still a very good basketball player. You guys know how I feel about Asar. But based on what my expectations were before the year, I would have him around a B so far through halfway through the season. So let me know, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. What would your grades be for the Pistons, JB Bickerstaff, Cade, Jalen Duren, and Asar Thompson? Coming up, we're going to talk about Isaiah Stewart, who I think has played himself into, is he a top 3 player, top 4 player on this team? Where is he? He's been so good this year. We're going to talk about him coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season. FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame and limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during a happy hour, always brings something new, boost, bonuses, and surprises. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. If you want to listen to Locked On Pistons without all the ads, check it out. We have access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Pistons, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. So again, if you want to listen to Locked On Pistons without all the ads, check out the Everydayer Club, and you also will get access to an Everydayer Club Discord server where you have a Locked On Pistons Discord server where you can interact with the entire community of Locked On Pistons. All the other fans watching throughout the game, after the game, before the game, in between game days, you can just interact with the community. Go check out, I just lost it. Go check it out. Here it is, LockedOnPodcast.com/Everydayer Club to hear more about it. But let's go ahead and get into the next player grade that I want to get to is Isaiah Stewart, who he's having the best season of his career. This is by far the best season of Isaiah Stewart's career. He's been absolutely fantastic. I don't know. There are not enough words that I can use to describe how good Stu has been this year. What he's done on the defensive end of the floor is crazy. For his size, for him to be as impactful defensively as he is at the rim, it's just crazy. Here's a number right here I saw on Twitter I wanted to say on the podcast. Give you an idea of how good he's been. Isaiah Stewart is holding players within 6 feet of the rim. Now, mind you, when you get 6 feet or closer to the rim, most NBA players are hitting around like 60, 65% of those shots, right? Like, those are the best, easiest shots in the game. If you can get that close, you're usually hitting the shot more often than not. When Stu is challenging the shot, he is holding players within 6 feet of the rim to 45.6% shooting. That is the lowest of anybody with at least 150 field goals defended. And that is 17.2% lower than the expected outcome. Players are shooting 17% less at the rim against Isaiah Stewart, basically, than you would expect a player to shoot. He's been absolutely fantastic this season for the Detroit Pistons. I don't know how else to say it. Coming off the bench, he's only playing 23 and a half minutes a game, 2 blocks a game. Only 23 and a half minutes. 10.1 points a game, 5.6 rebounds, 2 blocks a game. This is the best finishing he's ever had at the rim. He has a 61.6 true shooting percentage. He's shooting 36% from deep. He's not shooting as many from deep as maybe like. Actually, I take that back. I don't want him taking a ton of threes. He actually is taking a decent amount, to be honest, when you take into account he's only playing 23 and a half minutes. 2.5 threes a game, I mean, that's fine. 36% on those looks, though. He's finishing at the rim better. He's an absurd defender. One of the best switchable defenders in the league as well. Him and Asar are at the head of the snake of why the Detroit Pistons are as good as they are defensively. What they did against Boston, those two guys, they had some plays that were just, I know this is a season review, but go watch that Boston game if you want to figure out why the Pistons are good defensively. And just watch those two guys. Some of the plays that Stu made is just A+, man. He gets an A+ from me. Absolute A+, no doubt about it. He's been fantastic. I don't know what else he could do any better for the team. Moving on to the next player, Duncan Robinson. You're probably going to see a trend here. You might see a trend here start to build up. Duncan Robinson gets an A from me as well. He has been, just like I said with multiple of these players, I don't know what else he could do for this team. I don't know what else you really expected from him. Whatever was your best expectation, he has hit it. He's shooting nearly 41% from deep on 7.2 attempts. He's averaging 12 points a game. He is the team's only real volume three-point shooter. He provides the only real gravity on the team. And for the almost 95% of the season, I'd say, he has been consistent in providing that. He's had a few down games, but for 95% of this season, he has been exactly what the Pistons have needed. A high-volume three-point shooter that lets it go nonstop with even just a little bit of space. He lets it go. And I'll give him this. Actually, before we talk about his defense, offensively, he's providing a little bit more playmaking than even Malik Beasley did this past year. He's averaging around 2 assists a game. But if you just watch the games, you'll see that he just provides a level of, off these DHOs, he's able to make plays going downhill that other guys like THA and Malik just weren't able to do for the Pistons last year. So not only does he provide a little bit more, I'd say, playmaking off the dribble, he also is getting to the rim a little bit off these DHOs and having some nice finishes. He's a good finisher at the rim. Obviously, we talked about how great he is as a shooter, just to give you guys an idea of how good he is as a shooter. 129 spot possessions according to Synergy. He's in the 89th percentile. In transition, he's shooting 42% from 3. On spot-ups, he's shooting nearly 45% from 3. He's been one of the very best three-point shooters in the entire NBA. On all catch-and-shoots, he's in the 81st percentile. On guarded threes, he's shooting 37%. That's in the 73rd percentile. Whether he's guarded or not, he's hitting threes most of the time. And then defensively, last night against Boston, I thought the third quarter was really bad for him. But what you can say about what you can say about Duncan Robinson is that he gives it his all defensively every time he's on the floor. Most of the time, he's in the right position off ball. He's a good team defender, but individually, he can get picked on. We've seen it. He does get picked on. But there are games, like he had last night against Boston, where he gives enough effort and he's trying so much consistently that he's able to make some defensive plays and hold his own. And he was able to do that against Boston. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I don't know how much better he could play. Last player I want to do for this segment, Tobias Harris. Tobias gets a C from me. And he gets a C from me because what he did against Boston is not who he's been through the majority of the season. If he can be that, not 25 points a game, but just that type of play, then it'll go higher. But Tobias, I feel like, has not had nearly as good of a season as he had last year. He's shooting 33% from beyond the arc, which we've talked about it nonstop about what they need. We don't need to continue to talk about that. He's shooting 31% on above the break threes, which I think has been a killer for the team. However, he is incredibly impactful as a post-up scorer. When sometimes the half-court offense blows up and they don't have anything, they can give it to him in the post, and he's able to get a shot. He's able to get to a shot. On post-ups, he's been absolutely fantastic. He's in the 96th percentile on post-up opportunities. He's been fantastic. Every time he gets the ball in the post, if he gets within 10 feet, it feels like it's going in. So overall, I feel like he's had a fine season. I don't think he's been nearly as good defensively this year, even though, again, he's coming off a game against Boston where he was fantastic. If he can be that Tobias now the rest of the year, and he has spoken about that he's been dealing with injuries throughout the year, and he feels the healthiest he's been. I believe he said that last week at practice. So maybe that's the case. So if he can be that guy that he was this past game against Boston, defensively, that looked more like the Tobias we saw last year on defense. And offensively, he can hit more threes, take more threes, actually make a few above the break threes. If he can do that, then he'll be fine. He'll be really good. That Tobias is a B+ player. But I'll change his grade to a C+, because a C+, he's more than passing. But I don't think this has been as good of a season last year for him. And I think he's had some very clear weak spots this season. He just hasn't played as well. And the on-off data is what it is. Like, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty staggering how much better the team has been with him off the floor this year. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Stu is playing so well with Duren, and that lamp works so well. It's not like they're losing the minutes with Tobias on the floor. They're still winning his minutes by 5, but without him on the floor, they win the minutes by 10. So they have a 5-point on-off. Last year, he was by far the guy with the highest on-off difference because of how valuable he was at that position. He doesn't feel like he's been as valuable. There's been times where it feels like the team is just better with him off the floor. His defense hasn't been as consistent throughout the year. Again, if he can be that guy in Boston last night, then is what it is. I take it all. That's a way better player than a C+. But I think considering the whole year, I give him a C+. Coming up, though, we'll talk about Jaden Ivey's team or mid-season review grade. And then I just want to talk about the depth of this team. Is there another team in the NBA that's deeper than the Detroit Pistons? We'll talk about it coming up. New year, new systems. This is a time where a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. I love how simple Quo makes everything your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlights the next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise, Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, quo.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers with Quo. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. We're going to speed through a lot of these players' season grading because I wanted to make this segment more so just highlighting how impactful they all really have been. Because now we're on to the bench unit. And everyone on the bench at one point or another has contributed to this team's season. So overall, I give the bench an A grade. How deep this team is, I give it an A. The overall depth of the roster, A. Like, so in totality, they all get an A. So I wanted to start with that because they have been tremendous. The fact that the Pistons have been able to win some of the games that they've been able to win with some guys out, with Cade out of the game, with some players dealing with foul trouble, plugging in random players at random moments to, hey, okay, now it's your turn to play. Let's go ahead and Chaz, go ahead and go in there. Fourth quarter, play. Ivy, your turn to close the fourth quarter. Or Dennis, your turn, close the fourth quarter. And it's worked almost every single time for the Detroit Pistons. So the overall bench and how deep this team is gets an A from me. With that said, now let's go through the individuals. Dennis Jenkins, he gets a B+ from me. He started off really hot. He had a little bit of a cold streak there that I think maybe cost him this consistent rotation spot that I think he deserves. But even then, since then, he has had moments of playing extremely well. We saw the other game, like last week when he came off the bench and was just putting on a passing clinic. We've seen him make plays defensively. This is a two-way guy who is going to get a standard contract eventually soon, hopefully within the next month, and may play legit minutes down the stretch for the Detroit Pistons, depending on what they do at the trade deadline. As a two-way guy, I don't know how Dana should feel amazing for what he's done this year. I don't know what else he really could do for himself to feel more proud of what he's been able to do for this team. So, Dennis, he gets a B+ from me. Moving on to the next bench player. We're going to summarize all these guys in just one group right here. Paul Reed, Javonte Green, they both, Chaz, I'm going to give them all the same grade. Paul Reed, Woo, Chaz, for their expectations coming into the year, they all get an A from me. Chaz, I did not expect to play any minutes. I didn't think that he would even look, I questioned whether he would even look passable in the minutes if he did get to play. And when he has played, he's looked more than passable. I've really liked everything we've seen from Chaz. So while he's not having like this fantastic year and he's not a consistent part of the rotation, when he has been given a chance, I feel like he's looked good. And given the expectations coming into the year, when you weigh that versus that, I feel like it's worthy of an A. Paul Reed, fantastic. Every time he checks into the game, he just makes things happen. He had a game earlier in the year when he got the start. It looked like a Jokic stat line. It was just crazy. His defensive playmaking is absurd. He's probably, I think, the best third center in the NBA. And I swear to God, I feel like he could go be a 20-plus backup big for more than half the league. The Pistons have him on one of the, when you talk about just pure value, some of the best, maybe the best contract in the NBA, one of the best contracts in the NBA. For a guy that's not really making anything, for how well he plays, it's like one of the best value contracts you can get. He should be, if I'm Paul Reed and his agent, listen, man. What happened? I should be getting minutes somewhere else. I should be getting more money. Like, he's been great. He's been absolutely fantastic. And Javonte Green, a guy who I thought was going to come into this team and be an end of bench guy, rarely ever play, has been one of their best rotation players. I'm shocked at how good Javonte Green has been. When the Pistons signed him, one of my best friends from Chicago, because he played for the Bulls, told me, you're really going to like Javonte Green. He's good, I'm telling you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. He's legitimately been really good for the Detroit Pistons this year. A 58 true shooting percentage. He's shooting 36% from deep. But then obviously that's not the point. What he's doing on the defensive end has been absolutely tremendous. He's averaging 1.4 steals a game in just 19.5 minutes. But then even you just go look at some of the on-off data, the team's defense has been 10 points better when he's on the floor. Now, the offense crashes a little bit, but the defense he's been so good defensively, constant energy, nonstop energy, 100% of the time. Another, just a contract you didn't think was really going to matter, a guy really for cheap. Trajan, again, crushes on the margins, getting a guy like this to play as well as he has. Again, on the margins. It's just a great signing and a great find from Trajan Langdon. So, Javonte Green, great, gets an A from me as well. Now I'm going to talk about Jaden Ivey. I saved him for the end because I hope that a lot of people tuned out at this point. Oh, no, we almost forgot Ron. Oh, my God, I almost forgot Ron. Ron gets a B for me. I think Ron has had points of the season where he's been really good. I think he's still struggling a bit offensively. He's finishing way worse than last year. He's not shooting nearly as good as he did on twos. He's not shooting well from deep at all, despite getting a lot of volume up for him. He's shooting really poorly from beyond the arc. With that said, he has been very good defensively still. And he has had moments throughout the year where he just comes into a game and is able to score quick 12 points because of how active he is on the defensive end. I think this has been, he's a raw player. We talked about that when he was drafted. He's going to be a raw prospect. He's still a raw guy, and it's going to take him a few years to develop, and that's fine. The team's winning despite that. Allow him to develop. I've seen some things that you'd like to see. His confidence in his three-point shot is cool to see, but you'd like to see him start to develop that because of the offense maybe taking a step back from what it was last year. He's still very good defensively. I give him a B, B-. Actually, I'd probably change it to a B- because the offense, he has gotten worse as a finisher this year. He's not finishing at the same level, but I still very much love Ron. I think he's the future. It's just going to take a few years, and that's fine. Marcus Sasser, I'll give him a B. He hasn't really gotten much of a chance, so it's hard to give him a grade. I feel like it should almost be incomplete. He hasn't really gotten a chance. Karis LeVert, you get a D-. I'm not talking about him much. I'll just leave it at that. Karis gets a D- for me, is what it is. Jaden Ivey, he will get, I'm going to give Ivey a C+. I was going to give him a C, but I'm a side on a more positive note with him because this has been a tough year for J.I. It just has been. He's shooting 36% from deep, which is a little bit down from last year, where he shot 40%. He's been better defensively, much better defensively. He's given his all every time on the defensive end of the floor, I feel like. But he's had inconsistent minutes. He's not nearly getting to the rim as much as he did last year. He's getting walled off on a lot of his drives. It's been a little bit of a... It's been a tough season for him. It just has been. He's had moments, like in this game against Boston in the fourth quarter, that early fourth quarter stretch when he hit back-to-back threes, that was absolutely big time for the Pistons. And he had a game a few weeks ago, or like 2 weeks ago, I think, where he had like 15 points in just 20 minutes of action. He's had some moments when he's played really well. But J.I. has seen his role really... He's seen his role really drop to just being this off-ball catch-and-shoot three-point guy. He hasn't done the same. He's not getting to the paint nearly as much, which I think is the biggest critique I'd have, which keeps him away from being a higher grade. He's seen inconsistent minutes. I think a C+ is fair. He's had his moments where he's played really well. He's had his moments where it hasn't looked very good. It's been a little bit on and off for him. So I think that C+ is fine. For example, throughout his career, just real quickly, 36% of his shots have been at the rim. This year, only 27%. He's not getting to the rim nearly as much. It's been a struggle for him at times. But, again, he's also had really good moments, especially this fourth quarter against Boston. So I'll give him a C+, and it can certainly rise as maybe he gets more accustomed, he gets healthier, he feels more like himself, whatever. It can rise, but right now I'll give him a C+. But let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Khahil. How would you guys grade the Detroit Pistons roster, each player, and their season so far? That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there, and peace out, everybody.